Hey folks, I've just finished writing the programs for next week for the Fortify prescription Revitalise and Fortify prescription build. So I just wanted to talk to you about what's coming up for your week of training. These weekly videos I'm going to try and release at the beginning of each week with a more in-depth one at the beginning of each cycle. So this is the end week of the first cycle. So first off, a massive thank you to those of you that have signed up and have been doing the work in the gym. And for those of you that haven't been able to get all of the work done, it's absolutely fine. I just really appreciate that you've actually put your trust in me to prescribe your movement at the moment. So, what have we got coming up? You'll all have noticed that the cycle stays very structured and the weeks are very progressive. So you do end up doing a lot of the same movements. Now, that's going to stay the same, but each cycle will be slightly different with a slightly different theme. This cycle for both programs has been very broad. We've touched on a bit of everything, really. And that kind of continues over into the next cycle, but we will have a bit more focus on certain elements. So, a few points to make for Revitalise folks. We move on to mixed grip pull-ups with your pull-up progression this week, and the only difference is for that we're going for a mixed grip, so one hand supinated, one hand pronated, and just each set you change that around. The reason we're doing that, we're looking for a slightly different stimulus in your pull-ups. Just doing it like that all the time, or just like that, can lead to a bit of some stagnation in your progression, but also we want as much balance around those shoulder blades, and the way the nervous system innervates the nerves to get you pulling is just slightly different when you're like this. And same again if you took your hands wider or narrower. There's lots of different variations for pull-ups, but as we progress that pulling strength, we're trying to get as much variety in there as possible. Pulling is going to be a focus in the next cycle. We move on to front foot elevated lunges as well, just a slightly different stimulus, a bit more depth, a bit more range of motion. With your single leg work for you guys on the Revitalise program, if you're struggling with stability, always err on the side of more reps over weight, okay? We don't want to add too much load to single leg movements if stability isn't perfect. So if you're not feeling stable when you're doing those movements, just do more reps to progress if you feel you need to progress it. If you don't feel comfortable progressing it, just stay exactly where you were the week before or regress it by losing load. If you're doing the body weight feels like too much, you can simply put a hand onto an upright or a bench or something like that to give yourself a little bit more stability and help with that stability. We carry on with barbell good mornings, remaining deadlifts and the dumbbell split squats, and we have a couple of nice conditioning pieces. Conditioning piece on Tuesday is a format I've not used in this program yet and you might not be familiar with. Basically 10 minutes of air bike, but every minute you get off and do a movement, okay? And so you start at 0, you do a minute's worth of air bike, and as soon as it ticks over onto 1 minute, you get off, do 7 down ups and back on. And then it will be, you're only gonna be on the bike for sort of 30 to 20 seconds from then onwards. So basically at the top of every minute you get off and do that exercise, and we're looking for things to be consistent there. In terms of build, so this week, again, last week of the cycle. So we continue with our front squat progression, and now we're starting to build loading, all right? Now, we're not looking for big jumps each week. When I say build loading, it should be that there's a bit of room from the week before to build on the same rep scheme, or with reduced rep scheme or reduced tempo, and so you can add a little bit. Always be cautious with this. We don't want to, for want of a better word, we don't want to shoot our load too early, all right? You don't want to make big jumps. That's how you're going to get injured, and actually it just shortcuts a lot of work. The work is so important for building that foundation to actually hit a higher peak if you are looking to get stronger. Now, a lot of you might have done a lot more intensive strength training in the past on build, and that's cool. just be careful of always needing to hit those numbers. You'll have the foundation in place. So really we're just ticking over here, and there'll be periods of time where maybe you do want to push it a bit harder. If your life is mega stressful and busy, there's no need to be pushing in the gym. We want to just rein it back. If you're on holiday, like I've got some clients who are students, and at the moment they're on like their 8-week holidays. They're kind of free and easy, they live very clean lifestyles, so we can push a bit harder in training. When we go back to school, when they go back to university, or whatever they're doing, things are going to be a bit more conservative in the gym because they're stressed, they're much busier, they've got less time to recover, less time to prepare food, all that sort of stuff. So just being aware of that for all of you, adapting what I put on the program to what is happening in your life. So maybe if you're really chilled at the moment and you've got really good lifestyle set up, you might add 5 or 10 kilos to the front squat. That's quite a lot. 10 kilos would be too much, I'd say. If you're mega stressed, you might add nothing, or you might just add a kilo, 2 kilos. So it's that sort of adaptation to your lifestyle that we need to all understand and start to manage how we're progressing in the gym a little bit better. So again, the same for the deadlift, pretty much the same for the back squat. We're keeping the load the same. And so one of the conditioning pieces, so the grinder on Monday, we've got 3 to 4 sets of work. So we've got kettlebell gorilla rows, we've got dual kettlebell front squats, and we've got farmers carries. Now we're looking to use the same kettlebells throughout. So your weakest movement in that is going to dictate the kettlebell load. Now it should be tough work, but we're aiming for all of the movements to be unbroken. So as you warm up, if you're warming up and you do sort of 8 kettlebell front squats and you're like, that was tough, you know that it's only going to get tougher when you're doing more work compounded on top of that. So maybe you need to go down in load. So there's going to be some tricky decisions there. Now, what I'm getting you to do is trying to get you to think about what you're doing so that you can actually, again, adapt it to make it suitable for the stimulus that we're looking for. And what we're looking for there, we're looking for a grinder effect. So it's essentially aerobic work, but we're trying to make resistance training aerobic. We're trying to get a bit of muscular endurance work. What's really good for us is getting non-maximal blood flow. So if we think about very, very heavy, strenuous work, our central nervous system is getting fried and our joints are put under a lot of pressure. Here, we're working below that. We're at like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Our central nervous system's getting trained, we're getting stimulated, but we're not getting burnt out. Our joints, they're working, they're under pressure. The ligaments and tendons, they're getting, and the connective tissue, we're getting blood flow through there. We're starting to ask them to get stronger and or maintain strength that you've already built in a previous life. But we're not hammering it. We're not pushing to our max all the time. So that's really important for these conditioning pieces. Again, for both programs, we're trying to get a moderate stimulus most of the time. So always being conservative and just being careful with how we load these things. Conditioning piece at the end of the week where we're getting some breathing done. We've got 5 to 7 sets of rowing and burpee box step-ups. So the rowing there is where you can change the pace. So when we've got a conditioning piece with a cyclical piece in it, and then a fairly complex movement like a dumbbell burpee box step-up, there's only so quick you can go on a dumbbell box burpee step up, whereas rowing, you can really push or you can pull back. So the rower is your accelerator or your brake. That's where you set the pace, and that's where we really thrive or survive in this. You're going to be steady on the burpee box step ups. The rower, if you go too quick, those step ups are going to suffer. Anyway, hope that helps. If you've got any specific questions about the programming, about lifestyle stuff, about nutrition, stuff that you'd like to see, please drop me a line, tom_mcpartland@hotmail.co.uk, or get my number or contact me on Instagram, whatever you want. I'm open to suggestions around all of this. Please do spread the word as well. If you're enjoying what I'm doing and you believe in it, tell your friends, okay? There's no barriers, is there? Because it's donation based. They can literally pay what they want. And I don't think there's any other programs out there doing that. So if you know people who are looking for better health, better vitality,